Imagine if the federal government could send you a stimulus check every year or even every month. Some experts believe this may be possible, especially after recent actions by the Trump administration. These moves could not only help Social Security but also expand programs like SNAP, unemployment assistance, and housing support. Earlier this week, the federal government purchased a 10% stake in Intel for about $9 billion. President Trump has described this as the beginning of a new strategy where the government acts more like an investor rather than simply a spender. His argument is that if the government owns part of a company and that company's value increases, taxpayers benefit directly. Instead of pouring billions into subsidies or contracts with no return, the government could see its investments grow, bringing more money and jobs to the United States. This approach is not limited to Intel. According to reports, the Pentagon is even considering similar stakes in major defense contractors like Lockheed Martin. This is significant because Lockheed already receives huge sums of taxpayer money through government contracts. By holding an ownership stake, the United States could actually profit from Lockheed's growth, rather than just handing over billions with nothing in return. The implications could be far-reaching. For years, discussions about Social Security reform have included the idea of tying it more closely to the stock market rather than relying solely on Treasury bonds, which are slow but stable. While stocks carry risks, they also historically average about a 7% annual return. If Social Security funds or other public programs were tied to successful investments, it could strengthen benefits and create more sustainable payouts for future generations. Another factor driving this conversation is the rise of artificial intelligence. Many experts predict that AI will replace millions of jobs in the coming years. As this happens, more Americans will rely on unemployment benefits, stimulus checks, or even some form of universal basic income just to cover basic living costs. If the government can create new revenue streams through tariffs and investments, it may be able to provide this support without sinking further into debt. The Congressional Budget Office recently estimated that tariff revenues could reduce the federal deficit by $4 trillion over the next decade. If those revenues are combined with profits from equity stakes in companies like Intel or Lockheed, it could provide a significant pool of money to pay down debt, cut interest costs, and free up resources for programs that directly benefit citizens. Still, there are risks. If the government invests in the wrong companies, taxpayers could lose money. Some critics argue that government ownership could distort markets or create conflicts of interest. Others question whether the government should act like an investment fund at all. Supporters counter that it makes sense to get a return on taxpayer dollars rather than simply giving them away. If successful, this strategy could represent a major shift in U.S. economic policy. The government would not just collect taxes and borrow money but also build wealth-generating assets that support the American people. This could mean more reliable stimulus payments, a stronger Social Security system, and expanded safety nets like food assistance, unemployment insurance, and housing programs. It is still very early, and much depends on how these investments perform. But with the government's purchase of Intel stock and the potential for similar moves in the defense sector, the United States may be testing a new model for funding public programs. The question is whether this bold experiment will strengthen the economy and provide long-term benefits for Americans, or whether it could end up being a risky gamble with taxpayer money.